Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you stopped by today because today we're going to try something a little bit different. This is something a lot of you guys have actually suggested I turn into a series, so I'm going to try it out, see if you guys like it, and if it works, we'll keep doing it, kind of like the other series that I've been doing here and there. I know I haven't done them in a while, but we're going to try and do those as well, like the scrap fabric challenge and stuff. I just haven't been sewing with a lot of things that require fur fabric, so my scrap fabric pile has not increased. Anyways, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing an art doll fusion. So kind of like Pokemon fusion where you take two different Pokemon, we combine them together and make a new Pokemon, we're going to do the same thing with creatures. So I'm going to take two random animals, we're going to draw them out of a cup, and we're going to combine them and make one art doll that hopefully doesn't look like a mess. Okay, so I'm going to take my cup and we are going to draw two random names of creatures out of this cup, and then we're going to combine them. Hopefully we don't get anything super hard to work with because some of these will work well together, others will probably not. I should look away. Okay, let's dig to the bottom and grab something. Okay, got one. Okay, so the first creature, there we go, is a bird. Okay, so let's see what we are going to combine our bird with. Okay, that one won't be that bad. We have, there we go, a wolf. Okay, so we're going to be doing a bird and a wolf. That's going to be pretty interesting because we can actually go super easy and just add wings and feathers to it, or we can add even a beak and turn it into like a griffin wolf thing. We'll see what we're going to do. Anyways, let's get started. Okay guys, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus mainly on making this a wolf and then adding bird-like qualities to it. So giving it a pair of wings, adding feathers here and there. So I'm going to start with the clay pieces. I'm going to get my base covered with a nice thick layer of clay, smooth it out, and then we can start adding details to the face. Now I'm going to be using a pair of resin eyes. I've used these in many projects lately, and I just like using them especially for more cartoonsy things. And with this piece, I really don't want to go like super realistic or anything. I just want to have fun with it. So I'm going to leave it kind of more cartoonsy in style, so the big wide eyes just kind of fit it more. Plus, I've been making a lot of these. I need to start using them. Usually when I do resin, I have a little bit of excess resin left over. So usually what I do is instead of throwing that out, I actually slowly make eyes with my excess resin from resining my clay pieces. That way I don't end up wasting any of my resin. It's also a fun way to experiment with what I can add to the resin, glitter-wise, color-wise, and just kind of mess around with it and not really have much consequences of worrying about wasting any resin because it would have been wasted anyways. Okay, so we have the eyes placed. I made sure they're nice and even, and then I'm going to start building up clay around the face to kind of build up the cheekbones and stuff, and then we can add some eyelids around the eyes. After we're done doing the eyes and we like how they look, we can move on to making the nose and working on the shape of the mouth. So I'm going to make a really large nose because, again, this is going to be kind of more of a cartoonsy style, and I thought a big nose, big eye kind of look would be really cute. So I'm adding a little bit of clay to the end of the snout. I'm making some holes to start the shape of the nostril, and then I'm going to use my tools to kind of shape them a bit more until I get the right shape. And then for the upper lip, I'm going to take two small balls of clay. I'm going to make them a little bit more oval in shape, and then I'm going to push them onto the front of the snout. I'm going to blend those in, and then I'm going to take an extra ball and use that for kind of the chin. Now the sculpting for this, I'm going to keep it kind of at the bare minimum. I'm mainly focusing on the main features. The rest of the face is going to get furred and made nice and fluffy, so I don't need to worry about what's going under the fur too much, except for the main shape of it. So after I have the basic shape laid down, I have all my key features in place. I'm going to clean up my edge around the base of the head, and then I'm going to add some holes to where we can connect some ears to the piece later. Those are going to be made out of fabric, that way they're not fragile or anything. So I'm going to put this in the oven at 275 Fahrenheit for probably 45 minutes. Normally I do 45 minutes, sometimes I do longer or less depending on the size. And then what I'm going to do for the feet is I'm mainly going to just make the paw pads, and the rest of the foot is going to be soft and plush. So I'm going to be making the paw pads, just kind of laying out a thin layer of clay to start building up on, roll out balls of clay for different sizes of the toe pads and then the main paw pad, and we're just going to start blending this in, shaping it, and adding texture to it. Now this piece isn't going to be posable or anything, so usually with my non-posable pieces I like making the whole foot fluffy if I can, so that's what we're going to do today. We're mainly just making the paw pad, and then we're going to glue it into place on a nice soft plush foot. So the very top of the foot is going to be just fabric and stuffing, so you won't see any details, so we're just focusing on the paw pad. Anyways, once we have all those sculpted, I'm going to put these in the oven for probably about 35-45 minutes at 275 Fahrenheit. We're going to get those all baked, let them cool, and then we can start on the painting. Okay, so for painting the face, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to primer it a nice brown color. I know we're furring everything, but we don't want any of the clay color to peek through. It's going to be a lot easier to blend in the color of a brown paint underneath the fur than it is to hide the white of the clay. So I'm just going to primer everything a nice brown, let that dry, and then start focusing around the details. So like around the eyes, we're going to darken that up a little bit, maybe add a little bit of a skin kind of pinky color to the corner of it, and then for the nose, we're going to add some more browns, blacks, and just hints of maybe a highlight. I'm also going to be darkening up the creases around the lips just to create a nice shadow, because we probably won't take the fur all the way to this point, and it'll make it look like it's a little darker and more defined. It seems like I'm keeping this project kind of a very simple project. I haven't done a very simple project in a while, and I thought it'd be fun, so everything's going to be kind of basic for this. And then for the paw pads, I'm going to be painting them kind of a nice teal color, kind of closer to a green than a blue. And I'm just going to go over the whole thing, just cover it up. And I might have to do 1 or 2 layers because I'm just doing a solid color for them. So it's mainly because those are the colors I decided to use for the feathers, and then even the eyes are kind of teal, and I wanted them to go with everything and stand out. I didn't want them to blend in with the color of the fur and be just a black color. I wanted them to be kind of like, bam, here's my paw pads. Anyways, I'm going to get all those painted, make sure my paint is nice and dry, resin over the portions that are going to be exposed and not furred later, let those dry overnight, and while those are drying, we're going to start on the sewing for the body and everything. Okay, so this is the pattern that we're going to use for our body. I have the main body, the front legs, the back legs. We're going to be doing a really long tail with some feathers at the tip of it, and then of course we're going to be doing a pair of wings. I don't have this cut out yet because we're going to be using felt, and I'm just going to cut it out piece by piece because it's easier to make all the fabric patterns for the wing all at once and then cut them apart as I slowly make the layers. Okay, so I decided that I wanted the belly to be kind of a lighter color, so I'm going to go with a plain khaki for that, and then the main body color is going to be this more natural fur fabric that has a bunch of hues and stuff. I love using this because it looks extremely real and it's really soft to the touch. So what I'm going to do is the sides of the body are going to be split in half. The bottom portion is going to be the light khaki, the top is going to be the dark color, and we're going to sew these together. After those are sewn together, we're going to take both side pieces and sew the belly portion. We're going to leave the back open for adding the wings and closing everything up later. And then what we're going to do is we're going to be sewing down the fronts of all the legs. So the inside portion of all the legs are going to be a nice khaki color, just like the belly, and then the outer portion is going to be the main body color, which is the darker fabric with the multiple tones. So we're going to take those two pieces, kind of sandwich them together with the fur on the inside, and sew down the fronts of all of them. And then for the tail, I'm going to have the under portion of the tail the light color, just like with everything else, and then the upper portion is going to be the darker fabric. I have some pieces of felt cut out for the feathers at the end, so I'm going to glue these together with some fabric glue, and then I'm going to glue them onto the fabric for the end of the tail. We're going to let that dry a little bit, and then we need to sew down the sides of the tail and stuff it. And then for the wings, I made a portion for the very top of the wing out of fur fabric. I decided I wanted a little bit of it to be that khaki color, so I cut that to shape, and we're going to sew these pieces together. And basically this is going to get folded over the very top of the wing. And then for the feathers, these are also cut out of felt just like the tail feathers, and we're going to glue some layers together, and then we're going to take this top portion of the fabric and we're going to sew it to the top portion of the felt. So we're just going to kind of fold that over and sew it into place. The reason I have the wing feathers broken up into 2 segments is so we can have these slightly posable, and that way they don't bend the felt, we won't have any creases, they'll just kind of like fold in on each other. And then after I sewed the top portion of the wing in place, I decided that I wanted more layers of the felt, so I ended up making just a few more patterns to go on top. Okay, so we basically have all of our pieces kind of ready, and now we need to put them together. So I'm going to take the body fabric and the head, and we're going to start gluing that around the base of the head. Now the head I made a little bit larger, plus I need to actually sew the wings into place, so I made kind of a triangle for the very top of the body. So I'm going to sew this to the top of the head, and then what we're going to do is we're going to start sewing down the sides of it until we get to the point where we want the wings, and then we're going to sew those into place. Now be aware, since we are adding the wings a little bit early, these are going to be kind of in the way while we do everything else. So it's going to be a little bit of a pain to have these on right now. If you want to avoid having them on and in the way, I'd recommend just kind of measuring out how large you need a hole for, and then just kind of leaving a gap for you to connect the wings later. So I'm going to get the wings sewn into place, and then I'm going to measure the wingspan of the creature, and we're going to make a wire that long. So it's going to go from one tip of one wing all the way to the tip of the other wing. And we're just going to kind of slide it into our fabric top portion of the wings. We're going to get that into place. We can stuff the wings a little if we want because we left that open, and then we can continue stuffing the rest of the body and closing it up. Once we get to the very end of the body, we'll want to sew the tail into place. I don't know what it is, but he kind of reminds me of a weird looking wyvern. I kind of like it. Okay, anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to start shaving the sides of the body. That way we can add the legs, because the fur is just going to be in the way, and it'll help us shape the body so it won't look so shaggy everywhere. Because we want to see the different dimensions and shapes of the legs sticking out. We don't want it to be just all poof. Okay, so we have the body ready. Now we need to start on the legs. That way we can add them. So I'm going to start with the paw pads that we made. If you noticed while I was painting them, I glued them onto a piece of cardboard so it'd be easier to handle. Well, I kept most of the cardboard onto the backing to make it a little thicker and more sturdy. And then with the front paw pads, there's that little part of the paw pad that's further up the wrist. I left that connected, so after we add this to the foot, we'll just end up gluing some fur fabric over the cardboard to hide it. So basically, I'm taking the fabric for the foot, and I'm going to use my hot glue gun first, and we're going to glue this into place. We're basically just wrapping the fabric for the foot all the way around the paw pad. We're going to let that cool, and then we can take our fabric glue and clean up the edges and tuck the fur fabric around the paw pad so we have a nice clean look, and it'll be a bit more sturdy this way. It's a little difficult to do this without using the hot glue gun. It just kind of holds everything into place so you can get a better hold on everything. You don't have to worry about the fabric just kind of sliding off of the place where you want it before the glue dries. So I'm going to do this to both of the front feet, the back feet, let them dry a little bit, and then we're going to sew them onto the body. So normally how I sew my legs onto my body is I take the inside portion of the legs and I sew that in place first on both sides. I make sure both of the legs for the front and the back are nice and even, and then I'll take the outer portion of the leg and kind of sew it over. And this will help make sure that your legs are in the same position if you do it slowly, doing the bottom portion and then the top instead of doing one leg at a time. Because we really don't want one leg really far up on the body and the other one kind of back. It'll look really odd. So I'm going to get those sewn onto the body, and then after we have them placed onto the body, the back portion of all the legs is still open, so we're going to stuff our legs and close up the back of the legs. And then after that we can take our hair trimmer and we can go over the legs with it as well to kind of define the shape of it. I'm mainly doing the fronts of the legs and leaving the back nice and fluffy because I kind of like how that looks. Okay, so now that we have the legs done, the last thing that we need to work on is the face. So what I'm going to do real quick is make a pair of ears, and then we'll move on to adding them to the face and furring them and just finishing everything up. I'm just going to sandwich these together and sew around them so we can flip them right side out. And then after that, I'm going to make a very simple wire frame to go inside of the ears to help them hold the shape. I'm going to add a little glue to that wire, and then we're going to insert it into the ear. Then we're just going to let it dry for a little bit, and then we can glue them onto the face. So I'm going to get those into place, I'm going to let them dry a little bit, and then I'm going to trim them up a bit. Okay, so now we need to start furring the face. So most of the face, the large portions of it, I'm going to cut pieces of my fur fabric to fit and glue those into place. But once we get to the kind of more tiny portions that are around our detail, I'm going to lay down a layer of my fabric glue, and then I'm going to use fur trimmings from the fabric that I have, and then we're going to just kind of push that into place, lightly fluff it on, and then we're going to use our tools to kind of adjust where it is, clean off any excess fur that hasn't stuck to the glue, and then we're just going to let that dry. Let me know, guys, if you want a video kind of going into more depth on furring the face and how I make the fur trimmings and stuff, because I know I haven't done that, and that could be an interesting thing to end up going over. It's not that complicated. Honestly, you can make it a lot easier than how I do it, but I do it kind of more cost-effective way. So just let me know if you want to see something like that. It could be fun. Anyways, we're going to let our glue dry, make sure everything is nicely dried all the way through, and then we can start painting things to adjust the details. So for this, I'm mainly just going to be painting around the eyes to kind of darken them up a little bit, and then maybe around the nose a bit. I really don't want to add much to it because I like how it looks, I just want to darken some of the features. Okay guys, and that is our very first fusion challenge. I had so much fun with this. I know it was a little bit simple, but it was a good way to get our feet wet, and maybe next time around we'll get a more complex creation to try and do. Anyways, I'm going to have him along with a bunch of other creatures in my Etsy shop, so if you want to buy anything, check the links down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!